Hey everyone, hope all is well. Just wanted to talk a little bit about relationships in general tonight. Um, it's there's just so many things we need to look at in our lives, right? How we spend our time, our free time. Are we addicted to news? Are we addicted to politics? How does that make you feel? Does that make you feel good? Does it make you feel happy? Does it make you feel joyful? Usually it doesn't. It makes you angry and it divides you against people. So, how do you spend your time? What kind of stuff do you read? What kind of stuff do you watch? How are the people around you, in general? Are they happy people? Are they miserable? Are they very political with their points of view and divisive? These are things that are really important to start to look at in order to have a life that is good, where you're healthy and you're happy. So, what's a healthy relationship? A healthy relationship is somebody that's there for you just as much as you are there for them. A healthy relationship is somebody that just genuinely cares about you and you genuinely care about them. It has to be a two-way street to be a healthy relationship. If one person is doing all the work, it's a one-sided thing. And then that's not good, because usually that's like at a point where somebody's being used, right? So, start to look at yourself, how you think, how you live your life. Actions speak louder than words. Do you practice what you preach? And then who are the people that you have in your life? Family is a different thing. We don't get to pick our family, but our friends are a choice at a certain age, right? The people at work, who do you get along with at work? How are the people at work? How do you treat them? How do they treat you? When you are home, what's the stuff that you spend most of your time on? Do you watch a lot of the news? Are you on Facebook all the time, Twitter all the time, arguing with people? People that don't exist, because it's just, you're fighting a keyboard warrior and the person wants to trigger you. Most people write the most just obscene things because there's no consequence, because they're not face to face with anybody. So it's like, how are you using your time? And then after you get off these platforms, how do you feel? Do you feel better, or do you feel more upset or more enraged or more unheard? It's like, you look at these things are really important, because to live a good life, to have peace in your life, to have joy, you have to cultivate it. If you don't feel that way, that's a different story. You can't, there's no such thing as, well, actually they said in Psychology Today a while ago, this is years ago, they said, the happy gene, some people don't have it. So you can't make other people happy, but you could do stuff to make yourself happy. And of course, that doesn't include harming anybody. You enjoying your life should never have to come at the means of somebody else suffering, that's for sure. So you look at your relationships, and then you look at how you treat yourself. What's your thoughts that go on in your mind? Are they positive and negative towards you? They say usually about 80 to 90% of thoughts are usually negative, which is crazy, because it's all stuff that's usually coming from the past. And then when we look at relationships and friendships, somebody has 5,000 friends on Facebook, doesn't mean they have 5,000 friends. Most people probably have really 3 people they could depend on the most. And a dog isn't a person, but you could depend on them. But they don't count in the numbers. But you start to look at your relationships in life. The person that you're dating, how do they treat you? How do you feel when you're in their presence? How do you feel when you're not in their presence? How do you feel when you get a text from them or you miss a phone call? How do you feel when they pick up the phone? These are things to really start to notice and dial in on your intuition. Because if every time your girlfriend or boyfriend or husband or wife texts you and you go, oh my God, and then you look at it, it's like, that's not a good sign. It's probably usually a negative thing, and nobody needs to have somebody be on top of them 24/7 on them doing everything right or wrong and how they want it and stuff. Nobody's here to be anybody else's servant. And then we look at the toxic people in our life. How do you handle these people? Family is one thing. family you can't get rid of, but you could distance yourself and not give them so much of your time. You don't have to call them all the time. You don't have to go spend dinner with them every Friday night. You don't have to do all these things that might be a family tradition, but if you're always getting punished being there and it's toxic, and you leave there with a migraine headache or wanting to drink or do something to escape from the drama that you were involved with when you're with them, these are things that are giving you a sign that you should probably not spend as much time around these people, even if they are family. Sometimes you have to go no contact with family members. If you do have an abusive parent, mother or father, or they are a narcissist, they don't have to be narcissists to be toxic and abusive, that's for sure. But ones if they are alcoholics or drug addicts, it's like the only person that you need to take care of in this world is yourself. Because if you can't take care of yourself, nobody's going to be there to take care of you. And I don't mean this in a selfish way, but for you to be able to help people and do the right thing, you have to be healthy, right? So if you're not healthy, you can't help others. It's almost like somebody in the fire department that is out of shape and can't do their job, but they're still a firefighter. Now when you go to a fire, that person's more of a liability than an asset. You don't want that person on the fire truck with you. You don't want that person at a fire with you. You don't want the person at an EMS call with you because they can't pull their weight. Because every week link in the chain is a huge thing when it comes to emergency services. So, when you're looking at family members or friends that are toxic, do you need to be there for your friend all the time, but they're never there for you? It's like you could be in the hospital and they couldn't care less, but if they stub their toe, they call you to drive them or pick them up something. These are things you have to look at, and these aren't real friendships. And the funny thing is with people like this, when it's a one-way street for friendships and they're toxic, when you leave the relationship, they don't miss you because they never cared about you. They're going to go use somebody else because this is their motive. This is just what they do. So, you have to start to look at your relationships on many different levels for you to be healthy and happy. Also, your mind has an impact on your body. So if you're depressed and upset all the time, you will come down with different illnesses and sicknesses. You could have stomach issues. You could get something worse. So these are all things that you really want to take care of by keeping yourself in an environment that's not full of toxic people. When it comes to family, sometimes you gotta create a lot of distance, and say, okay, I can't see you every week, but I'll see you once a month, or I'll do something. It's like you have to create healthy boundaries for you. If you don't create those boundaries, they're just gonna be all over you like flies on shit. And it's just the way it is. And the funny thing is also where if the person's like predatorial, whether it's work, coworkers, friends, family, whatever, the other sharks in the water will smell the blood too. And they're like, oh, look, you're easy prey. I'll start to prey on you too. So instead of just having one person, now you have a group of people. And then another term for this would be social bullying, right? So looking at all these things is really important because you want to distance yourself from toxic people in your life. Because they hold no value for you. You hold value for them because they're using you. You're using you as a source, whether it's a positive source or they're projecting their bad shit onto you and making you miserable and feeling good about that. So looking at relationships, start to really look at how your relationships are. Some people say, hey, it's my mom. I can't disown my mom. I can't distance myself. She needs me. Of course she needs you. But it's like you still could find a way to create boundaries where you're like, okay, I'll do this for you, but I can only spend a half hour. I can't spend 3 hours with you every day. You have to do something for yourself to protect yourself because these people don't care about you. It's all about like sucking the life out of you, just like a vampire. Once the vampire's finished sucking all the blood out of the body, or even less, it moves on to the next one. So you have to do stuff to really protect yourself and cultivate a good state of mind. So if you're watching bad stuff all the time, politics, Twitter, all these things, you're on Facebook has changed so much too. So if you're on there and you're seeing all this negative stuff from friends, don't follow them. You don't have to unfriend them, but don't follow them. You have that opportunity. Same thing on Instagram. You could not see their stories. You can mute them, but you don't have to unfriend them. But noticing these things, it's like, okay, so how do I spend my time? Watch more uplifting stuff, watch more happy stuff. I'm not saying to, escapism that, oh, bad stuff happens in the world. I'm going to turn a blind eye and everything's, flowers and roses and all this other stuff. It's like, no, I'm not saying that. But what you do and how you spend your time makes a big difference and impact on your mind and your health and your well-being. So think of how you use your time. Think of who you spend your time around. Who are those people? Do those people care about you as much as you care about them? If you need them, are they there for you? Do they text you every so often just to see how you're doing? When they talk to you, do they care about your side of the story, or do they care about you? Or do they let you speak just enough till you shut up and they could continue their story? All these things. Are they active listeners? Are they, having a conversation with you? Or is it a one-way street where, oh, I went to the supermarket yesterday. It's like, oh yeah, whatever. I'm still talking about my dog being sick. It's just like, or they tune you out where they don't even listen and they then just start talking after you, finish. All these things are not healthy. A person that cares is a person that listens. That's why most of you, and the same thing here, fall for the narcissist. Because when they first get to know you, they're very intent on listening to every detail. And you're like, well, I'm not used to this. So this is how you fall for the trap, which is normal and it's unfortunate because this is just what they do. You're not going to change that. But as you learn about narcissism, you'll see all the red flags and you won't give them a benefit of the doubt or second chances. You'll get away from them. But then when you look at friendships and family members, sometimes the best thing to do with a friendship is end it. It's just unfortunate. At a certain age, you've already had a handful of best friends or more, and people come and go, not always for bad reasons, but if you do meet somebody and they're toxic, you gotta let them loose. It's just like holding a poisonous snake in your hands, and they keep trying to bite you till you let it go or throw it away. Unfortunately, throw it away from you and create distance. So it's just something to think about, because the thing that you don't want to do is constantly be in a mode or state of turmoil and blame everybody for it. Because at a certain point in life, you do have a choice. When you're a kid, you live in a certain neighborhood. You can't help it. Those are the kids in the neighborhood. This is your family. This is the school you go to. You're stuck there. You're stuck till you're 18. So when you're an adult, you have a choice. Of course, work is one thing, but outside of work, you have a choice of everything. For the people you interact with, don't interact with, what you spend your time doing, not doing, all these things. And another good thing for you to do is do some form of exercise, even if it's going for a walk in nature. So start to look at how you spend your time, the people that you spend your time with, the social media that you interact with, and how it makes you feel after you get off. Do you feel good, or do you feel drained, or do you feel upset, or some type of sense of fear and terror? If you're feeling that way, it's best to disconnect from that stuff. I have a next door neighbor that he was so angry for the last few years, and he noticed it came from him watching a lot of political stuff on TV that was one-sided. And now he's like questioning that all that stuff that he thought was wrong now. But it was a waste of time, and it didn't help him with anything. It just made him angry and walking on eggshells all the time, just being in a state of constantly just anger. So look at the stuff that you do. Look at the people that you surround yourself with. It's better to have one amazing friend than have 15 fake friends. It's better to have 10 people on your Instagram or your Facebook than 5,000 people that don't know you from a hole in the wall. And start to value quality over quantity. That's one thing that's just has always been a staple, right? Just quality over quantity. The narcissist might think differently, but who cares about them at this point? So just look at your relationships. Some people you might have to distance yourself from. Some people you might have to just cut off completely. And some people you might have to limit your contact on many levels. But start to look at these things and start to find things that you enjoy. Spend time around people that make you feel good, that lift you up, that listen to you, and then you want to listen to them and be around because you care about them just as much. And this will start to change things for the better. If we are in a bad relationship, that's a totally different story. But other things that you do have control over immediately is definitely friendships and people in the neighborhood and all that stuff, and your family. So just try to see what you could start to do that will make your life better, because the only person that could do that is you. If you don't have boundaries, people just will shit all over you. It's just the way that it is. And a narcissist is different. They like to see what your boundaries are, and then their whole goal is to break them. That's why at the end of a narcissistic relationship, you feel lost and just like, oh my God, I don't even know who I am. So creating boundaries, healthy boundaries, and upholding people to them will help your life on many levels, and it will keep the toxic people out. And if you notice that person's starting to get toxic and that person was a good friend and they starting to change and turn on you, let them go. Put them in their place. You have to be assertive and speak up, because if you don't, that person usually thinks they're outsmarting you and is manipulating you, and it's with ease. When you speak up for yourself, you kind of put people in their place, which need it sometimes, and this helps them realize that you're on to them, you know what's going on, and you have boundaries, and you care about yourself. Because if you don't care about yourself, nobody else will. That's one thing I've learned all these years. You have to love yourself, because if you don't, nobody else will. All right, thank you, everybody.